How's it going, everyone? It's Avi from Weather Sponge 5000, and in this video we're going to focus on this next bomb cyclone that's expected to bring heavy snow from the southeast and as far north as the northeast, where we could see over 6 inches of snow in many areas of the northeast, as well as an extreme severe weather threat further southward. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. So let's begin by taking a look at the current radar for the lower 48 at this time. And of course, we do have this elongated area of snow showers, as now we're beginning to see a little bit more lift in the atmosphere right around the southeast, where there's a high amount of unstable air in this area, where right around Mississippi and Alabama temperatures are in the 70s. But if you could just go a couple miles in the northwest of Little Rock, Arkansas, temperatures drop down to 20. So there's such a stark contrast when it comes to temperature that it's just asking for a lot of lift to occur in the atmosphere for our next bomb cyclone to develop. And we do have some thunder showers developing right around the Florida area, the panhandle of Florida, as well as South Carolina. We're seeing some thunder showers as well. And eventually these two low pressure systems will converge to create our next bomb cyclone for the northeast and bring heavy snow, potentially up to, if not over, a foot of snow in some localized areas of the northeast. And we're also seeing snow just north of the Ohio River Valley as well. Now, if I were to show you guys the current temperatures throughout the United States, look at, like I said, look how stark the contrast is between the temperature readings. Because if, let's say, if I were to point to you at around northern Louisiana, you see temperatures are in the 60s, but only go probably less than 30 miles in the northwest, the temperatures drop down to the 30s, and that's just creating a lot of lift in the atmosphere right around southeast for this next major low pressure system to develop. And we're seeing 80-degree temperatures right around Florida as well, where we're seeing a little bit of instability here induced by this low pressure system, where it's 50s right around the Carolinas, but you see 80s just south of that. So eventually we're going to see these two low pressure systems converge and create our next bomb cyclone. If I were to show you guys the computer models, we have had a major change with the forecast between mostly with the GFS model, I'd say, and now we're more confident that a lot of the northeast cities will experience a major snowstorm out of this, where maybe you could experience up to, if not over, 6 inches of snow in some areas of the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan area based on the latest update with the GFS model run. If I were to show you guys that first, this is as of the 18Z run, which just came out right after I started recording. And if I were to show you guys the latest GFS model run forecast, you see that, of course, the slow pressure system develops, but what's interesting is that it does develop a little bit more rapidly, and we do see heavier snow on the northeastern side than the European model. So this would be a more significant snowstorm for a lot of the northeast if I were to continue to move forward. You see that if I were to move forward to the 21-hour mark, look at how heavy the snow is right over New York City, right over northern New Jersey, and right over the southern portion of upstate New York. You see that this might be one of those scenarios where the convergence zone between the cool air mass and the warm air mass, where the heaviest snow will occur, will be right just to the west of that rain snow line, which may put New York City right on, maybe at the worst of this storm, if this were that to happen, because it will receive by far the heaviest snowfall rates out of any area in the northeast, where we're seeing a strong amount of convergence and lift in the atmosphere, right where the warm air and the cooler air mass are converging. So it's definitely something interesting to watch. It's difficult to forecast where exactly that exact convergence zone will be when it comes to the heaviest snowfall, but I'll make sure to keep you guys updated with any sort of shift in the forecast. And yeah, this is bringing heavy snow to Philadelphia and New York City areas further eastward. You see that Pennsylvania still gets involved in the snowfall. West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, you guys are experiencing heavy snowfall, even though the slow pressure system is nowhere near the maximum strength that is forecast with this storm. So if I were to continue to move forward, you see that By the time this reaches New England, the pressure should drop to 974 millibars, and to put that in perspective, that's equivalent to almost a Category 3 type hurricane. So this is going to be quite a significant storm, and it's going to even strengthen further as it heads towards eastern Canada. But you see that it is bringing heavy snow, as well as strong winds will be the issue as well, because of course when we see a low pressure system have a pressure that low, all the dense air that's surrounding it is going to want to spiral inward to where the pressure is low, and that's what's going to create the wind throughout the Northeast. So we could see blizzard conditions at times in certain areas of the Northeast where the snow will be heavy, as well as where the pressure gradient will be strong, especially further northward, where this storm should be at its max intensity the further more at a higher intensity the further northward you go. So that's something to keep in mind throughout the Northeast. And when it comes to the European model was also stating the same thing, that the snow would move further westward, as it seems like the European model scenario won out in this case, where the European model, well before the GFS model made the shift, was forecasting we'll see a shift in the forecast when it comes to where the heaviest snow totals will be, and now it's bringing more of that heavy snow to the East Coast, and the GFS model is mimicking that. So now we could be confident that throughout the East coastal cities such as New York City, Philadelphia, Washington DC, you need to prepare for potentially a major snowstorm, because I think there is a possibility you could receive a lot more snow than what you'd expect. While the forecast didn't expect much of any snow in New York City, I think now the chance has definitely risen for New York City to where maybe you could receive up to 3 inches of snow, maybe a little bit more than that. Now, to show you guys the forecasted snow totals, from what the European model is stating. So in the European model's case, you see that it's primarily a large area of 3 to 6 inches. However, I'd say the European model isn't bringing snow totals necessarily as extreme as a GFS model, because if I were to show you guys the GFS computer model run right now, you're going to see that the GFS model run is leaning more towards a larger area of over 6 inches of snow. And not only that, it wants to bring the heavier snowfall It wants to bring the heaviest snowfall well further eastward, where look right around the New York City metropolitan area, you're receiving over 6 inches of snow in northwestern New Jersey, or in northern New Jersey in general. Philadelphia, just outside of that, you're receiving over 6 inches of snow. And it's very interesting with the GFS model, because look at how stark that contrast is between the lighter snow and heavier snow, especially right around Philadelphia, because Philadelphia is right on the border between 7 inches of snow to only 1 inch of snow. So I think it's going to be one of those scenarios where it's going to be a little bit difficult to forecast. Really all depends on where that rain snow line will be. But you see that now it seems more likely the northeast cities such as New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington DC will experience a major snowstorm. And of course, outside, just north of that, the interior northeast cities should experience, the northeast areas should experience a major snowstorm. And this extends further southward as well, where Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia are expected to receive over 6 inches of snow. Arkansas, an additional 3 to 6 should be expected. And northern Mississippi and Alabama could get involved as well. So that's something to keep in mind, that we're going to see a major snowstorm now for millions of Americans, as winter storm warnings are now issued for a large portion of the Northeast, as well as even some portions just south of the Ohio River Valley. So that's something to keep in mind. There's still a little bit uncertainty with how much snow you'll exactly receive, because again, a GFS model is forecasting a little bit extremes, a little bit higher than the European model. So we're going to need to see how fast the storm strengthens over the next 24 hours to really determine if we're going to see as high of a snowfall total as what the GFS model is forecasting, or a little bit more of a moderate snow total that's more lean towards 3 to 6 inches with the European model. Definitely something to be aware of. But at this point in time, I will say that the Northeast will experience a major snowstorm. New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., those major cities will experience a major snowstorm. So make sure to prepare all along the East Coast, as well as areas further southward like Nashville, Tennessee, Memphis should get involved in some snow. Of course, Little Rock right now is experiencing some snowfall. And the interior Northeast, of course, will experience a major snowstorm out of this. So make sure to prepare throughout the Northeast as well as southern Midwest states. Now, another thing we're going to need to pay attention to regarding this storm is, of course, the wind threat. That's definitely going to be important. Let me show you guys the wind forecast before I move on to our next major threat associated with the storm, which is the severe weather threat for the southward. So if I were to move forward, you see that the wind should be quite strong off the coast, and while I don't think there's necessarily going to be a lot of coastal flooding associated with this low pressure system, because I think for the most part the strongest winds, and for the most part the winds should come from the northwest, which should pretty much push the water away from the coast rather than onshore, which would cause coastal flooding. So as a result, I don't expect a major coastal flooding threat, but you see that the winds should be extreme. You should see strong winds throughout northern New Jersey, throughout upstate New York. New England should, of course, get involved. And you see that we could see winds maybe sustained right around 18 knots, which is equivalent to almost 30 miles per hour. So make sure to stay prepared for the wind threat as well, because there's just a lot of instability, a lot of cool, dense air surrounded by this very warm and lightly dense air. It's just asking for the denser air to spiral around the center of circulation for a major wind threat to occur. But now let me show you guys the potential severe weather threat, because it seems that we're going to experience a major severe weather threat for our southward. Let me show you guys the convective available potential energy levels, and you see that we're going to see a little bit of the grays, which represents that convective available potential energy levels will at least be strong enough for severe weather to occur right on Florida and Georgia. And while you see that the highest convective available potential energy is mostly in the Gulf of Mexico and not really moving onshore, which would mean that the cloud top should be relatively low. So I don't expect a major hail threat necessarily out of this severe weather. I think the bigger threat associated with this should be damaging winds as well as tornadoes, because the upper level wind component is we're gonna see strong upper level winds associated with this trough as it moves eastward. If I were to continue to move forward, you see that the upper level winds are just going to be extremely strong throughout the East Coast in general. But in the areas where the air will be unstable enough and to support for severe weather, this should be the main concern right around. This should be the area of main concern when it comes to severe weather for Georgia and Florida. And if I were to show you guys the change in wind direction with height, while the change in wind direction with height isn't so, there isn't a stark contrast when it comes to direction, you see that there's still a decent enough change in wind direction with height for potentially a tornado threat to occur, where you see along the surface the winds are primarily coming from the northwest, but it's a stark contrast when we take not a stark contrast, but enough of a noticeable contrast to where we're seeing a southwesterly flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And of course, a change in wind direction with height is what causes a tornado threat, and this is exactly what's going to happen for tomorrow throughout the southeast. So make sure to keep in mind for potential severe weather threat for Florida and Georgia, where most likely the damaging winds and large hail should be, not large hail, tornadoes should be the main threat associated with this storm. And this should extend further northward as well into the Carolinas as well. Just because you're further northward, closer to winter weather, does not mean you'll get spared from the severe weather necessarily. So I do expect a major severe weather threat for North Carolina and South Carolina as well. Now let me show you guys the current severe weather threat for today. Of course, we do have this isolated low pressure system that's located in Florida. So we are seeing an enhanced risk of severe weather today. I think primarily the threat will be damaging winds, a slight chance of a tornado, and a small chance of hail, as like I said, the cloud tops are relatively low, so there isn't a lot of moisture going up into higher levels of the atmosphere for hail to develop. So I think damaging winds should be the main threat, and tornadoes. But if we were to take a look at the day 2 forecast, you see the severe weather threat extends further eastward, where the Carolinas now get involved with an enhanced risk of severe weather. Tornado threat should be light for tomorrow, and the wind threat is primarily going to be the main threat associated with this storm. So make sure to keep that in mind along the eastern coast of the Carolinas. Now, let me show you guys the Futurecast Radar with this next low pressure system. So this is how it looks right now. Of course, we're seeing the snow move into Memphis and now over Arkansas at this point. So if I were to show you guys the Futurecast Radar, you see that Mississippi should get involved with some snow in the early morning hours of Saturday, and you see that the area of snow does expand further northward once the unstable air increases further northward, once the instability increases further northward, where the snow will expand into Ohio, let's say by the overnight hours on Saturday, and this should extend to Pittsburgh as well, where the heavy snow should approach you guys and into Pennsylvania. And you see that initially this is going to begin as rain for the bigger cities of the Northeast, such as New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C., but eventually we should make that change over into snow, I'd say, in the early mornings hours on Saturday, and that's when snow should be very heavy for you guys in New York City, Philadelphia, and maybe Washington, D.C. as well. And you see this should extend to New England, but I'd say by Saturday afternoon, this should be completely gone from New England. So this is going to move relatively quick as a result of the strong upper level winds associated with this jet stream, with how much unstable air there is. But we still should see a major winter storm for a lot of the Northeast. So make sure to keep that in mind. Now, let me show you guys the warnings that are issued from the National Weather Service at this time. You see a large area of, and millions of Americans are now under winter storm warnings, extending through New England, upstate New York, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, West Virginia, all under winter storm warnings, as it seems imminent you will experience a major winter storm at this time, where you could receive over 6 inches of snow if you're under a winter storm warning in the Northeast. So make sure to pay close attention to that. Winter weather advisories just outside that, but I wouldn't be surprised if the areas in the winter weather advisories right now do get upgraded to winter storm warnings in the areas further eastward, as it does seem like the shift further eastward will bring the worst winter weather impacts further eastward as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see winter storm warnings issued now. Take a look at my forecast with this snowstorm. So I'm expecting a large area of 6 to 12 inches. Oh wait, give me 1 second. This map is okay. This is my updated snowfall forecast. So I made this change with the map last minute as GFS model was releasing. So now I'm forecasting the area of 3 to 6 inches to move further eastward, where northern New Jersey should expect 3 to 6 inches. And I wouldn't be surprised now if the European model makes that shift. We could maybe see areas over 6 inches of snow in northern New Jersey. But I do expect 3 to 6 inch area to be for eastward now. But you see a large area of 3 to 6 inches throughout Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio, 6 to 12 inches in the interior northeast, and 1 to 3 inches right around northern Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, and even into Ohio as well. So there's going to be a major snowstorm at this point. You need to prepare. Also prepare for very strong winds. Winds could occasionally gust over 40 to 60 miles per hour in some areas in the Northeast, especially if you're along the coast, where the wind gust should be over 60 miles per hour. More inland, I'd say 40 to 50 is more likely when it comes to wind gusts, especially the further northward you go. So make sure to prepare for a major snowstorm, as I'll be live out on the field reporting on this snowstorm here in northern New Jersey. But I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like, and I hope you guys stay safe.